Good evening, and thank you for joining me for this live event. Well, I say good evening if you're in a European time zone. If you're somewhere else in the world, or if you're watching it afterwards as a recording, then hello. I'm going to talk tonight about reprogramming your habits, and this is the first of 3 live sessions that I'm going to run to kind of set you up for 2025. So because there's in 3, it's going to be relatively compact. It should be much quicker, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. Tonight I'm talking about habits. Tomorrow night I'm going to talk about the rules of the mind. And then not the next night, but the night after, I'm going to talk about the rules of suggestion so that you can auto-suggest to yourself the life that you wish to manifest, something like that. Yeah. So I'm not going to do a hypnotic induction tonight. This is going to be very practical. Might want a pen and paper. And so if you fancy a hypnotic induction, in actual fact, I offered one a couple of nights ago when I did a different live event. So if you wish to find a quick hypnotic induction and make friends with yourself, then have a look on YouTube. It's got the picture of a heart on the thumbnail. It should be very easy to spot. So tonight, I actually want to dedicate tonight's session to a dear individual who passed away this week, a hypnotist called Jim Kellner, and and I think it's important to mark Jim's passing, which was completely unexpected. I wish I could tell you that Jim was my best friend and what a fantastic guy he was, and that would be absurd for me to say. I'm in Switzerland, Jim is in Seattle, and that's not the case at all. But I knew Jim, and he touched my life, and I think it's important to mark that passing when someone has made an impact. And I know not only did he make an impact on my life, but he made an impact on many people's life. In fact, Jim actually changed my life. And the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure he has no idea, or he had no idea. And I think there's a big learning message in there somewhere. So for me, Jim was the first one that got me out onto the strip, the Las Vegas strip, hypnotizing complete strangers. And if you can bear in mind me from Europe, going out on this, what you want to call it, a sort of an absurd megalopolis type location. We were on the corner of the junction where Bally's Hotel is. It's about a third of the way up the strip going away from the airport. And it's nighttime and all the lights are flashing and the cars are behind us. And we're hypnotizing all these people. Great fun. And there was a guy who was a little bit further away, a little bit standoffish, a little bit reluctant, but eagerly reluctant to obviously to experience this sensation of hypnosis. And he was massive. He was absolutely enormous. He was basketball size. It was at least 30 centimeters taller than me, maybe 50 centimeters taller than me. It was at least 30 centimeters wider than me. He was huge. He had big tattoos on his arms, and he had an entourage. He had 4 or 5 guys, all in their 20s. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, if I hypnotize this guy, I do an instant induction, and his legs buckle, then I'll just be crushed like a grain of sand. I remember thinking that. But he was just like eager. He wouldn't go away. So after 15, 20 minutes, I kind of said, come on, let's do it. So I didn't do an instant induction on him. I did a very gentle induction. It took 2 or 3 minutes, and and it worked really well. In actual fact, I was conscious of the fact that I had 4 observers over here that were making sure that their friend was safe and well. But after 2 or 3 minutes, honestly, this massive guy, he had a tear coming down his cheek. Well, I remember when he opened his eyes, we had this moment of connection, a moment of truth, let's say. And without a shadow of a doubt, that has changed my life. And that wouldn't have occurred had it not been for Jim instigating that we go out and do something silly. We go and hypnotize random strangers on the Las Vegas Strip. And as I say, he probably had no idea that that changed my life. Why would he? I didn't tell him. And I think there's something very significant about that. We have no idea when we interact with other people the impacts that it has on other people. And that's why I wanted to bring Jem up, because he truly was one of the good guys. He helped. He had a sense of intention of kindness and caring for other people, which kind of emanated, and and maybe in some silly way, the fact that I'm doing this video tonight and trying my best to help other people is in part down to that one moment of which he had no clue. Enough of the emotions. So, reprogramming your habits. Let's get on with that. Why would you care? For me, someone wants to reprogram their habits because they think there's something dodgy about their current habits. Yeah, it's like there is a should in there somewhere. Life should be X, it's Y, and my habits are getting in the way. So I need better habits in order to get me towards my goals. Yeah. So maybe if you follow along with these 3 sessions, either live or if you want, that will be recorded so you can watch them afterwards. Maybe at the end of that you could find the courage, or maybe the flippancy, the indifference maybe, to take the steps that will bring you towards your goal. Okay. And have no regrets, to find the freedom inside of yourself to go for it, something like that. Yeah. Or maybe it's to stop the sensation of self-sabotage. Maybe it's to kind of clear the channel so that you are able to go for whatever it is that you want. But ultimately, I think what's happening is that we're all chasing a feeling. There's whether that be to honor yourself, to achieve whatever it is that you want, to feel capable of having really made progress, having made your mark, or feeling happy or satisfied, something like that. Yeah, we tend to be chasing a feeling. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to offer you the steps, and the steps are dead easy, and there's only 4 steps. So if you follow them, you will suck the marrow out of life. You will get there. The steps are dead easy, but the process involved inside your mind takes a little bit of chewing over. All right. So step number 1, get clear on what it is that you truly want. Okay. What is it that underpins your wish to change your habits? If we assume that your complaint about your habits is a symptom rather than a goal in itself, what is the goal? What is it that you really, really want? Now, a lot of people, when I ask them what it is that they want, they tell me straight away what it is that they don't want. Yeah. So if you find yourself doing that, just rephrase in your mind. A goal is something that you want to move towards. It's something that you want more of, something that you wish to attain or achieve or feel or be. Yeah. Get clear on that. Get really, really specific on that, to the point where you can write it on the t-shirt. Yeah. And then once you've got that, once you've conceptualized exactly what it is that you want, ask yourself, what is getting in the way? Why are you not achieving that goal that you want? I'm a firm believer that people are always winning. So there must be a reason why you're not doing what it is that apparently you want. So what is it? What is in the way? So then you've got this concept, yeah? You know where it is that you want to be going towards, and you know what is in the way. You've conceptualized that. When you create a concept in your mind, when you create a an idea, it builds an attitude, and attitudes have a sort of an emotional gravitas to them. Yeah, there is a weight to an attitude. They help you to create mental imageries. Yeah. So step 2 is once you've noticed these attitudes, once you've noticed the mental imagery, quite deliberately, out of choice, visualize. Yeah. Visualize doing the thing that it is that you want to do. Actually rehearse it in your mind. Engage your imagination. Yeah. Excite yourself, because when you excite your imagination, it actually creates the will, it creates the desire, it gets your emotions on your side. Yeah. So stage 3 is engage your emotions. How do you engage your emotions? Because once you've got your emotions on your side, you build the courage to take the steps that you want to take. Okay. So how do you engage your emotions? You need your why. You need your gleaming reason why. Ask yourself, why is this important? What is it about this specifically that is important? What happens if I don't do this? What is the catastrophe if I don't do this? What is great if I do this? What will be the positive outcome if I do this? Basically find your leverage. Okay. Now, most people, we all respond to pain and to pleasure, but typically people tend to respond more to pain than they do to pleasure. You know, in my mind, there is a sort of a mental seesaw, and it's about 6 negative points to 1 positive point. So there's an awful lot. We have a natural risk manager inside of our mind. And so personally, I find it useful to work on what is the catastrophe if I don't do X, Y, Z. That tends to be more motivating. But if it works for you with the carrot instead of the stick, and you know, what is my gleaming reason to go towards, then by all means use both. But get your emotions charged. Get a sense of the meaning underneath the reason for making the habit change. Okay. And then step 4, dead easy, take an action. Now, sometimes it can feel quite overwhelming to go down that step. It's uncomfortable getting outside of our comfort zone. And by virtue of the fact that you're wanting to change your habits, this means it's going to be something which you are not habituated to. So it's going to be outside your comfort zone. So you must take action. That is the way by which you see results, you get feedback, and then you can course correct. There is a book which is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So basically, the best thing that happened is that you take an action. The result is fantastic. You've learned something new, you get the result you want. The next best thing is that you take an action and the result doesn't work out as it should. But you still have made progress because you now know what not to do again. Yeah. So you've narrowed down the number of mistakes that you can make, and you can course correct, and then you can take a different action. Yeah. That's it. They're the 4 steps. Decide what it is that you want. Conceptualize precisely what it is that you want and what's in the way. Create a set of attitudes with an emotional weight to them, which create mental imagery. They create visual imagery. Deliberately visualize. Deliberately visually rehearse whatever it is that you want as a new, improved action. Engage your emotions, charge your emotions with that very deep, rich why, and then take an action. It doesn't have to be a massive action. It just needs to be the next measurable step forward. You don't need to know the whole thing. It's very easy in actual fact. If the action sounds overwhelming, chunk it down, get it to the point of the smallest component element, and just do the next step. If I want to run a marathon or a half marathon, I don't get in my head, in actual fact, running 42 kilometers. What I do is I run to the end of the road. I run to the bend. And then when I get there, I go, oh, that was all right. And I run to the next bend and the next bend and the next bend. And it turns out you run a lot of kilometers. Yeah. You don't start with the massive thing. It's like you can't eat an elephant all in one go, but you eat it chunk by chunk by chunk. So that's it. They're the 4 steps. What does this assume? What are the predicates? What are the requirements in order to be able to do this? Okay. Number 1, I think the most important. So in order to go through that process, you need psychic commitment. Okay. If I want to plant a seed in a field, the field has to be fallow. It has to be fertile. It needs to have been plowed. So you need to ask yourself, are you ready? Yeah. Do you have the psychic commitment to do, not only to think about, but to do what it is that is required in order to change your habits? Changing habits takes about 30 days. Yeah. The reason why it's important to know the why is because typically people get about 10% of the way in. They see a little bit of success And then they kind of ease off on the gas because they've kind of done a little bit and they get complacent. Yeah, this is why New Year's resolutions rarely work. So, are you ready? Are you determined that this is the moment? If there's any reluctance, get in touch with what happens when you actually do the visualization, when you engage your emotions. What is the gut response? What is coming up? What is your imagination playing out to you at that point? Because from that you can understand your fixed ideas. Yeah, the fixed ideas are what underpin any self-sabotage. Where imagination and willpower come into conflict, imagination always wins. So it's very, very important that you are ready, that you have a sense of almost eager anticipation or grim determination. Never again, let's get this done. Let's do something. That's kind of it. That's what's required in terms of um, predicates, in terms of the way that you need to be mentally ready in order to start. And then what are the first steps? Well, basically, it's chunk it down. Chunk it down to the smallest component part that you feel comfortable to take forward. Our habits tend to feel like identities. They tend to feel like us. It's like, well, I've always done this sort of thing. But habits are not identities. Habits are doings. And doings are fluid, right? Doings can be changed. If you created that habit, you can create other habits by the same process. So I don't know, maybe you want to imagine that you've already achieved it and then look back along that thread and say, so what were the steps that I took in order to change that habit? And what was the very first step? And just do that. You want to reduce that sense of overwhelm to the point where you are eating a bite-sized chunk of the elephant rather than trying to contemplate eating the whole of the elephant. Okay. What's the next actionable step? There is another way, which I kind of think is a little bit amusing, which is to fail on purpose. So somebody once said, and I can't remember the name of the person. It was a female actress. Uh, if I had my time again, I would make the same mistakes, but I would make them sooner. Yeah. So any achievement which has ever occurred in the history of mankind has had a series of mistakes that led them to that point. So you might as well get the mistakes out of the way as quickly as possible. Yeah. So try failing on purpose. It might bring a sort of a light-heartedness to the situation. I think that's all I have to say. Yeah. Um, Thank you for joining. If this is useful and you're willing to kind of go with it, then tune again tomorrow night or watch me on the video afterwards, and we'll delve into the rules of the mind, because the more you understand the processes and the mechanisms and the reasons for the difference between your imagination and your willpower, the easier it is then to instigate the change, to actually get on with the change. Thank you very much for watching. I hope I haven't whittled along too long, and with a bit of luck I will see you tomorrow evening. All right, take care. Thanks. Bye.